Hello, hello, dear students. I'm very happy to see you one more time. I hope that you enjoyed my first online video of the first story, the, the fun they had. Today, we are going to start the poetry section. The first poem is The Road Not Taken. This poem is written by Robert Frost, very celebrated American writer. In this story, you are going to just read about the choices of the humans, how we have to just choose the proper way in our life in order to make our future. This well-known poem is about making choices and the choices that shape us. Robert Frost is an American poet who writes simply but insightfully about common, ordinary experiences. Robert Frost, let's try to know little about the poet. Robert Frost was born on March 26, 1874 in San Francisco, where his father William Prescott Frost Jr. and his mother Isabella Moody had moved from Pennsylvania shortly after marrying. He became interested in reading and writing poetry during his high school years and in Lawrence, enrolled at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire in 1892, and later at Harvard University in Boston. Though he never earned a formal college degree, Frost drifted through a string of occupations after leaving school, working as a teacher, cobbler, and editor of the Lawrence Sentinel. His first published poem, My Butterfly, appeared on November 8, 1894 in the New York newspaper. This was all about Robert Frost, the very celebrated American writer. In the poem The Road Not Taken, the road symbolizes our life. The poet says that the path that we don't choose in our life is the road not taken. He describes his feelings about that choice that he had left in the past. The path which we have chosen decides our future, our destination. The important message that the poet wants to give is that the choice that we make has an impact on our future, and if we make a wrong choice we regret it but cannot go back on it. So we must be wise while making choices in life. Let us start reading the first stanza of the poem. Two roads diverge in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveller. Long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. This poem is beginning with the explanation of the two roads. The first word here is diverse. The meaning is separated and took different directions. So you can see that the two roads down. Poet says that he could not travel on both. It's very difficult for a person to just traverse on both the roads. So, and be on a traveler, long I stood and looked down on as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Dense growth of plants and bushes. He saw that the other one road was straight and other road was just going through the very dense uh, and there were very different plants and the bushes. Once the poet was walking down on a road and then there was a diversion. There were two different paths and he had to choose one out of them. The poet says that as he was one person, he could not travel on road only. He had to choose one out of these two roads. Yellow wood means a forest with leaves which are wearing out and they have turned yellow in color. The season of autumn. It represents a world which is full of people, where people have been living for many years. They represent people who are older than the poet. The poet kept standing there and looked at the path very carefully, as far as he could see it. Before taking the path, he wanted to know how it was. Was it suitable for him or no? He was able to see the path till from where it curved, after which it was covered with trees and was hidden. It happens in our life also. When we have choices, we have alternatives, but we have to choose only one out of them. We take time to think about the pros and cons, whether it is suitable for us or not, and only then we take a decision on what path we should choose. This is the explanation of the first stanza of the second stanza goes like this. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and one wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. Here the underlined word words are given here. Wanted where means had not been used. Okay. The poet kept on looking at one path for a long time to check if it is the right path for him or not. And then he decided and started walking on another path because he felt that the both paths were equally good. He said just as fair, so he felt that both paths were equally good and started walking on one of them. He adds that maybe he felt that the path was better for him, so he chooses it as it had grass on it, which means that it was unused. Not many people had walked on this path earlier, that is why this path was grassy. And wanted where means that it was not walked over by many people. After he walked on the path for some distance, he realized that both the paths had been worn out the same way. Both the paths were similar and worn out. Even in our life, we take any path or option, but all of them have the same benefits, disadvantages, problems, challenges, and we must face them. We think that we are choosing a better option, but it is not that way. This was all about the explanation of the second stanza. In the third stanza, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no stave had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. It means that the poet says that both the paths were similar that morning. Both had leaves on them, and no one had stepped on them as they were still green in color. He decided that that day he would take one path and keep the other path for another day. Although he knew that one way leads on to another way, he knew that he could not go back on the choice that he had made. Similarly, my dear, even in our life, once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option, and we never get a chance to come back and take the other option that we had left earlier. This is what is happening in our life also. So he is comparing how we are taking or making the final decision in our life. In the concluding stanza number 4, I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere at ages and ages hence. Two roads diverge in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Hence, here in the raid, in the future, he says that in the future he will take a deep breath and say that once upon a time he had reached such a point in life that there were two options for him, and he traveled on that road which had been traveled upon by lesser number of people. That decision was what's his decided his future. Similarly, in future, when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time when you were young, you had two options. The choice that you made, that was made by you, and you became of it. This is a very strong message for all the students, my dear, that you should be wise and be careful while making choices out of the options that you have in your life, because your future depends on the choice that you make today. So this was the actual explanation of the poem written by Robert Frost in the poem The Road Not Taken. I hope you understood this particular poem very properly. Under the stanza, I have already written the explanation also. So please kindly